you, Josh, for taking the time to chat with us at the Christian Beat today about some of Bethel Music's newest project coming out. We'll start with there and see where else the conversation goes.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So first off, with the title is Come Up Here.
Yeah.
And I believe it was recorded live. So do you want to just talk me through a little bit about that recording experience, where you guys were and all of that?
Yeah. We were in the Redwood forest up in Northern California, and which is, not like maybe 2.5, 3 hours from Redding, California, where Bethel is. So we were up there, and the great cool thing about it, we weren't just in the Redwoods. We were on Jen Johnson. We were where she grew up. Her family, her dad, and all her uncles, they all have a logging company, a family business up there in the mountains and in the Redwoods. And so she grew up there. And so it was kind of her dad, she had this dream. We had this vision to like record a live album in the middle of the forest, which is nuts. And because there's no power out there in the middle of, I mean, not where they wanted to go. So but her dad loved it, and he just made it happen. Ron Rock made it happen, and got all his tractors and bulldozer, and just created a little place for us to throw a stage, and it was this whole thing. We had been dreaming about it for a couple of years, and in the back of my mind, I was like, this is never going to happen. This is this is too lofty, but it happened. And it was, I mean, I wouldn't say it was seamless, but I mean, all things considered, like no major accidents or anything crazy, and it was pretty special. And I think, I mean, I'm making this a long answer, but
go ahead.
I think one of the most special parts about that, talking about her family, was those nights we recorded. We recorded over 3 nights, I think, or 3 days. We would start kind of in the late evening or late afternoon, and then to sunset in the evening. And those 3 days, a couple of those days, like her family, like her father and mother, and then like his brothers and some of her cousins would all come and just stand and watch, and they were just so moved. I mean, because this is their land getting put on film, and just forever they can go back, and kids can go to YouTube, wherever, and just see this worship time in on their property that they all grew up. So I remember one of the nights that hit me. I was like, wow, what a legacy to be able to like say, we just like, not only did this worship come out of our family, but we actually cleared land, and they worshiped on the grounds here for days and recorded it for the world to see and hear. That's pretty crazy, but
absolutely. Yeah. And it also, I mean, I assume that setting is part of the tie-in with the album artwork too, and just the simplicity, kind of capturing it, I mean, but also just the nuance of where it was as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, those guys are amazing. They always wonder, like, what are they going to work up this time? And I tend to overthink it, and I would overthink it if I was doing that. But they have a way. They did a great job of just like capturing the feel of the whole week for us there, and just with a picture. And so yeah, it was really special. It was very muddy, but it was very special. It had rained up there for like, I think 3 or 4 days before we got there, and so it was just and rained some while they were setting up. So we all went to the Tractor Supply and bought boots. So we're all walking around in like boots up to our knees. And then we take the boots off right before we get up on stage and do that. So, but it was fun.
That's awesome. So how long of a planning cycle did it take to like start picking the songs, because again, it was the collective that pulled these songs together. So I imagine there were songs coming from all different angles, but how long was it, and when did you first start to pull the collection together?
Yeah. I mean, I know Jen had been dreaming about this album for, I think, 2 years. So I know, and she knew we had talked about, we wanted to call it Come Up Here. That was always like, that was going to be the title. The goal was to like do it where we did. And so I know Come Up Here, that just that song, that it started from that. I think she had the title, and then she was like, we need to write a song called Come Up Here to fit that. Was so I know like that song itself probably started around that time. I didn't write that, so she could speak to that more than me. But I think for a handful of those songs, it took, we had them out of the gate, like, okay, this one has to be on there, this one has to be on there. But there was a lot of them, I think, that just, which this happens more than people probably think. There's a lot of the songs that make it, and it's kind of like not last minute, but towards the end, because you kind of think you have them all together, and then there's another one that comes and it's like, no, that one actually not that. And actually with me, my song, I had written, knowing that we were going to do this like a year or a year and a half, I just started writing songs kind of, for that, and thinking of the theme of Come Up Here. But also I started writing songs thinking about just the setting, like what would be awesome to sing surrounded by redwood trees. And I had songs that I thought, oh, these are amazing, they're gonna fit perfect. And they were considered, they were in the files of like, consider these, there's the trash file that are like, no one should ever hear these. So I had some that were in there, but I don't know that Brian and Jen, or I don't know. I know Brian picks a lot of these. Brian has a great ear for these. So this and the songs for the compilation stuff, that's like near and dear to his heart. So he has a lot to say, as he should, and he's great at it. But Brian and some of the guys, they were listening through songs. Well, and I in the meantime, I had been writing other songs for my own project, and I even write a lot of stuff for friends of mine. And I had gone into a writing session with one of my friends, Mac Brock, a worship leader out of Charlotte, where I'm from. We've been good friends for years. And I wrote a song with him and another friend of ours for Mac. And I threw it in, it goes into all my pile of songs that go to Bethel Publishing and all that, which is just a complicated thing that, no one cares to hear about. But so they, it's in this list of songs, and I don't know who, I think Brian got a hold of, I don't know who found it, but they were listening to it, and Brian was like, they were like, that's the song that has to go on this Come Up Here album. And they reached out to me, and I was like, well, that's supposed to be Mac's song. I mean, it's my song, I definitely wrote a lot of it, but like, I'm like thinking in my head, because there's something even more freeing about writing for someone else, because I feel like I can just almost write whatever, and I'm like, well, I don't have to carry this, I'm just going to give it, not that I would say something crazy, but just, there's a bit of freedom that comes from just writing something, knowing that somebody else is carrying it. And so I was like, I mean, let me talk to Mac. So I talked to Mac, and I was like, do you care if I record our song with Bethel Music? And he was like, of course I don't care. Please record our song. So the song that I have on there is called Time and Time Again. And it was supposed to be from Mac Brock's album, which maybe it still will be. But that one made the cut. That was like a few weeks before we started recording. So yeah. So the process to sum that all up, the process goes from like songs that were probably like a year and a half, 2 years, already established that they're going to be on this album, to 2 weeks ahead of time, we're grabbing that song instead of that one and putting it on there. So, and I love that. And that's how it's always been. I mean, people don't realize back in the day, the We Will Not Be Shaken album with Bethel Music, No Longer Slaves. I don't know if you know that song, but that song barely made that album. That was like, I mean, like day before kind of vibes. And a lot of the band guys, I won't say their names, but a lot of those band guys didn't like it. And they thought, this song is not going to be a big song. What are we doing? And I mean, the rest is history. So
that's funny. We'll come back to the new music and the project in a second, but talking about the songwriting that you mentioned actually made me think of I'm curious how you know, kind of differentiate, or you try to differentiate, you know, writing for Bethel, writing for yourself, writing with other people, or how you go about that process when you're doing that part of the
Yeah.
process.
I mean, I honestly, I don't, well, I was gonna say I don't think I do a good job. I mean, I do a good enough job that I get to do this for a living. But I mean, like I think when I started to do that, I'd only ever written for myself. And when I started to think, okay, I'm writing for like a worship album that's Bethel and it's gonna be compilation. So it's all of us on there, you know. And then
Mhm.
I think, oh, I've got to write for me. But and then I think, I'm looking now, this is writing for someone else. I used to try to get in that mindset and like, okay, this is just for this, or this is just for that person. How would that person write? You know, how would this sound like something they would sing? And I feel like that almost like hurt me and pigeonholed me a little bit. And in some ways, I'm like so much myself and who I am. It comes out so much in on my music. I mean, I can't help it. It just, I mean, if I write a song, a lot of times it's going to probably sound more like a song that someone from the South has written. I mean, I can't really get around it. And I think the more I've just embraced, like, people are asking me to write with them and maybe for them because they like my songs and the songs that I put out under my name. So I'm just going to be that person and just write with them. And I think the more I just do that and don't think so hard down one lane, that's helped me. I mean, there's definitely times when it's like, okay, this is going to be more for corporate, like Sunday morning church. And, there's definitely like a focus you need to have while you're writing. Like, would this work for that? And would this is, all the things that are involved with that. And then on the other side, like the other day I wrote with some guys who are, they're from Holland, from Netherlands, and they do essentially do like Americana music in the Netherlands, which is so, and they wanted me to write down that vein because they love my music, but they were like, they weren't necessarily wanting it to be like Sunday morning kind of church or songs. And I love that, but it made me like, okay, well, let me just go down that lane and think that. But I always have to come back to, but also I want to be able to, like, would I sing this song? Would I carry the song? And I think if I always go back and think like, would I be able to carry this song too? Then I feel like, okay, I love this. This feels solid. And so, and I guess there's been a handful of songs that I wrote and I thought, yeah, I'll never sing that song ever. But
No, it's an interesting question. I mean, I just was curious if you think, if you go at it differently at this point, or if you kind of go at it all the same at this point.
yeah, I think I kind of go at it all the same in this, or at least, not worrying if it sounds too much like me or not.
Mhm.
But then also, yeah, think about, okay, whose ears are going to be on this song and what would they enjoy? But,
Absolutely. So going back to the Come Up Here project, I'm just curious, not trying to make you pick favorites or anything, but of all the tracks, obviously
I love picking favorites. It's fine.
we obviously talked about yours, but I'm curious what for you personally, what the standout track of someone else's is on that project for you.
Gosh, now I'm like going through the list in my head. Um, and I'm gonna get the names wrong. I know I am. Not of the people, of the songs.
Fair.
Yeah, what's that girl? Amanda. Speaking of Amanda Cook and Hannah McClure's song they do together. I think it's like "Oh the Precious Blood" or "Precious Blood of." That's bad that I can't remember the song name. I just remember how much I love it. I love that song. I love David Funk's song "Beauty" that's already out.
Mhm.
Those two songs, my wife listens to Beauty a lot in the house. It's always playing in the house. Um, I think those two are real. I mean, obviously, Holy Forever, the song Jen does.
Mhm.
That one's, and Chris Tomlin's already released that. That song's like, I mean, that's going to be a song that probably every church is singing.
Mhm.
It's just, that's a great song. And I got to sing some harmonies on that one. So that was fun. But yeah, I mean, there's so many, those three I think are the standout. tracks for me.
Absolutely, that's awesome. You mentioned already the legacy a little bit about the recording process and what you were feeling at that time. But what is your vision for the impact of this project from a listener standpoint?
Wow, I love that. I mean, I love that. I love that these songs are like worship songs and they can be done in church and Sunday morning kind of thing. But I also love that it was as a project, the project just as a whole was just kind of this like offering to the Lord in every way. And like, we want to do this outside in his creation. We want to make it look beautiful. We want to have everything about it. We want excellence and just even the songs, like we want the songs to feel and sound like they belong where they are out there. Like all the way the guys produced it, Bobby Strand and Chris Greeley. I love everything about it in that sense that it's all so intentional. And I think that's my prayers when people are listening and watching, because it is such a visual album. I mean, I want them to feel that just the presence of the Lord and just how he is calling us, that like that song Come Up Here, which is I think is that Revelation 4. Am I getting the wrong chapter wrong? I'm bad about not quoting the right. I know the scripture, I just sometimes don't know the reference, but the whole Come Up Here and see what I will show you. And I hope that's what I hope. I hope people like feel the sense of the Lord, like calling them to lift their heads up, get your eyes off yourself, and like let's look at it from the Lord's perspective. And I think when I watch it, when I listen to it, that's what I feel. I feel this like almost like a pulling away from like the world here in a sense, and just like get a bird's eye view of like our problems, and you see how small they are and how big he is. And yeah, and it's such a visual album. And specifically I think about that. When I think about that, I think I remember my wife when I'm for my song Time and Time Again, we had an idea I sang in 2 different mics. I don't know if you've seen it or heard any of them. But so for the first half of the song, I'm singing in this like really old mic, and it kind of sounds really old and cool, lo-fi. All the gear nerds and everything are geeked out. Like, what is he singing it? And then I switch over to like the good mic, and it's clear. And it's cool when you're watching it, because you see it happen. You know why I'm sounding like that, and you see. And then I remember when my wife, when I played her the song, when she's not watching it, she's just listening. She was like, "What is wrong with your voice? Why does it sound dumb? I can't hear it." And so that said, it's very visual, this album. Like, if you hear my song, it might sound weird at first, but if you watch the video, it'll all make sense why I sound like that. But no.
Yeah, and it's also awesome when you get all those different forms of arts and creativity coming together. To your point, it totally enhances the full experience too. So
yeah, totally. Yeah.
One of the other bigger news items out of the Bethel Music Camp was the Worship Nights tour coming up both in US and international. I'm just curious how much, if any, impact you'll have on that, because I know you're also going to be out on the road with Pat Barrett. So I'm just curious on that.
I know. I'm going to have little to no impact on not because I wouldn't want to or don't love them. I'd already committed to Pat. So, no, I mean, they're going to be amazing. It's I think Brian, the McClures, Paul and Hannah, Amanda Cook's coming out, and David Funk. I think Zaria and John Wilds. I'm just spitballing here. I'm pretty sure but I got it right. So they're going to be amazing. Honestly, they don't need me. They're fine. They're going to be fine. And as long as one of them does like maybe 1 or 2 of my songs, that I'm fine.
I was gonna say, do you have any requests of which one's gonna?
I know. I'd love for Paul to sing Time and Time Again. I'll text and ask him. I don't want John or Zaria singing it or Amanda, because they'll sound too amazing, and I won't want to sing it again. No, they're going to be amazing, and I know the guys are pumped. And then they're going out to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very jealous of that. I mean, I love America and I want to travel, but I'm already going to travel around America. But I'm very jealous that they get to go to Europe and they're doing it without me. But that's going to be amazing. But yeah, I'm going to be out with Pat Barrett, which, I mean, Pat's amazing. Pat's great, and he's a good friend of mine, and we play golf together. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be great. We're going to and it'll be fun acoustic nights, me and Pat. Kind of just like living room setting. We just gather around and share our songs and share some stories, and then just worship together. And so those are like my favorite kind of nights. I think I've been doing that.
I was going to ask how much you were already in the planning and thinking and, putting those nights together with Pat,
Yeah.
and what that was going to look like.
Yeah, we are. I mean, we've been talking about it and planning. I mean, it's just me and him and a buddy of ours playing with us.
Uh-huh.
So in a sense of like rehearsing and all that, there's not a lot, which is kind of awesome too. But I think also makes for each night to feel special and a little different, because we definitely have like, a map of what we want the nights to look like. But I think because it is so much sharing and just like that living room vibe, it'll make each night just have its own, like maybe take different. And then if Pat's just gonna do whatever in the moment he feels like is the thing that needs to happen. So they're going to be they're going to be fun. There's going to be no lack of energy, even though it's acoustic, because yeah, so we're
Absolutely. And I know we're running close on time, so I'll close with one final question for you, so we don't go over. But we've already obviously talked about a handful of exciting things that you have coming up for you. So I'm just curious, either professionally or personally, kind of what you're most expectant for in this year as a whole.
Oh wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm doing a lot. Doing some traveling, which is great. I've got the tour with Pat, and some other things that I'll be doing just on my own. And those are always exciting. But I'm pumped about, I mean, even though I just released an album back in October, that's new and, still fresh, I still have like more songs coming out this year. And that's not normal that you just can say that like in a year that I know like I'll have a lot. And so I'm really excited about that. I'm excited. I mean, I've got the song with Bethel Music on the Come Up Here album, and then I've got a song on Gateway's last worship album that I wrote with them, and another one coming out with them later this year, and a little acoustic EP that I'm gonna release in a couple months, a radio song every hour. So I mean, I'm planning on releasing a lot of music this year, and so that really excites me and a lot. And I think and even the music is going to be even more like kind of, there's acoustic stuff too in there, which is near and dear to my heart, and I don't get to always share. If people that know me and are around me a lot know that that's like my passion, is just like me in an acoustic sitting down, and just that's kind of it. But I actually get to release some of that music this year, so I'm pumped about that.
That's awesome. I just wanted to thank you again, Josh, for taking the time to chat with us today. I really enjoyed getting to hear more behind the new music and what's coming up for you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This was fun.